Good afternoon and thank you for joining us. My name's Nikki Kimball. I will be delivering this particular Quick Bites webinar on the Just2easy library. So our Quick Bites series are 15-minute webinars. We'll be running these every Tuesday for this academic year, every first Tuesday of the month. So in this session, we are going to have a look at the library. So we will be keeping it to a 15-minute tutorial. We're going to look at the library interface, how to search, save and share resources, adding your own resources, what the pupils will see, and a Q&A session at the end. Now, if you do have any questions as we run through, please feel free to pop it in the chat. Alternatively, you can hang on to those questions and ask me in person at the end. Right, let's dive straight in. So the library can be found from the top of your Launchpad. We've got a lovely pink logo, you can't miss it. We will also run intermittent collections of resources, and those will be highlighted at the top of the page. As you can see here, we've got our end of year resources highlighted. Now, these will change according to the season. So we do have some coming up for Halloween as well as for Christmas. So please keep your eye out for those. Right, when we open up the library, we're met with this. This is the community area within the resources library, and we will see our most liked resources will come up first. We can change the way that the library is sorted, and we can do that by using this drop down menu. So we can change to things like most highly recommended, most recently updated, and according to language. We've also got the option to filter by age group, so if you're working with a particular age group, as well as a particular subject. Now we can do a keyword search, so we can look for Titanic perhaps, and that's going to throw up a number of resources linked to that keyword. Now, when we find a resource that we like, we can open that resource and we can share with our students. So to do that, all we're going to do is click on share, and then we can find our individual student, or we can share with a class. So I'm going to share that with my class now. Now, this resource was one of my resources. So if you run through and you find a resource that isn't made by you, you will also be offered the option to like a resource. So this star icon here will allow us to like a resource, and that will then save that resource into your liked resources area. So we can open that up and we can quickly access that bank of resources that we've liked over time. It's going to show you the most highly liked resource initially. Again, you can change the way that that folder is filtered. Now, once you have shared a resource with your students, it will also go into this shared resources folder. Now, that's really important because your students will only have access to the files that you have shared with them. So if you want to remove that sharing permission, this is where you'll come. You'll come to your shared resources area. You can click on that particular resource, and by unticking that like, your students will now no longer have access to that file. So that's important to remember. Now, in terms of what your pupils will see when they log into the library, let's refresh that page. As I said, they will only have access to the files that you have shared with them. So you can see here, these are these files. Now my students, these are fully interactive for my students, so they can open up that particular resource. They can read the instructions. Now they'll only have access to student instructions, and we'll have a little look more into that in a minute. They'll have access to whichever file is attached as a student file. So they can open that up, and depending on how the resource is set, they can interact with it in the view page if they wanted to. So this is a drag and drop activity. So we can drag one of these. I am feeling very sleepy today. Now, alternatively, it may be an editable file so they can choose edit and they can change, maybe type into it, depending on what the activity requires. Once they've completed that, all they do is they press on the save button and that will save a copy into their My File so you can access that particular resource. Now you'll see here we've also got audio instructions. So some resources will have audio instructions and teacher notes and teacher attachments. Now depending on how that's set up by the individual that created that resource, it depends on how much content there is on this page. So what we're going to run through now is how to add your own resources into the Just2easy library so that other teachers can use those resources. And I'm going to do that by clicking on My Resources at the top. And you can see here, this is my resource area. So these are all the resources that I have created and shared to the library. So to do that, I'm going to click on this button here that says to add a resource. And I'm going to add in a Diwali word search that I created earlier. There we go. Now, my word search is geared towards Key Stage 2, so I'm going to add in all of my Key Stage 2 ages. There we go. And because it's Diwali, it's going to be a number of different subjects. So we're going to hit religious education. We're probably going to hit a bit of miscellaneous. We might do a bit of English because it is looking for words. We're going to hit probably a bit of computing because they're going to have to use different tools within J2E5. And possibly some history because they're going to have to look for some historical words as well. I'm going to type my instructions. I'm going to keep it short, but you can make this as long or as short as you wish. So we're going to say complete the word. Would help if I could type word search. Be sure to cross out the words as you find them. And then we're going to put something along the lines of please make sure you save your work. Now I always put that at the end of my resources, just so it gives the students a prompt because sometimes they might come out of the activity without saving. So it just gives them that little prompt. I'm then going to attach my student attachment. So this is the photo, video, link or file that you want your students to have access to. So I'm going to access my files and I have got it saved. Here we go. And I'm going to go for my Diwali word search. And there we go, that's going to add that in there. Now you also have the option to add in things like links and videos and photos. Now these are really useful if you've got maybe a project, maybe you want your students to have a look at a particular web page and to read up about a subject and then answer some questions within a file. So you don't just have to have one thing within this resource library, it could be a whole group of things. So that's a really nice element to that. I've also got the option to add voice instructions. Now I won't be able to do that at the moment because I am recording, but all you do is you just hit the microphone button and hit record and you can record some instructions. That's particularly useful if you've got younger students that maybe need that prompt about what is expected of them within that resource. Now teacher notes. Only teachers will be able to read this part of the resource. So this is where you might highlight things like you've added an answer sheet. So that's what we're going to put. Teacher attachments. There we go. And you can also put this is a printable resource because this resource can be printed, funnily enough. So I'm going to add that and I've already made that within my file. So I'm going to look for Diwali. There we go. There's my answer sheet that I made. don't want students to have access to that, so that's why I've put it into teacher attachments. Now it might be that you do want your students to have access to an answer sheet so they can check their own answers, in which case you can add that as a student attachment. Now the last thing to check is that your attachment opens how you want it to. So if we go to edit, we can open the task as an activity. So that means it will open up into edit mode. And if you want it to open up in view mode, you task template. You can also have it as an example, and that means they will only be able to view it. They won't be able to edit that activity at all. So that might be that you give them what a good one looks like, or a success criteria to look and mark against. So you can use that for anything you don't want them to edit. Of course, if you add something as a mistake, you can bin it. And when you've got multiple files, you can choose which one you want to act as a cover. So that's the cover that shows within the resource library. So that's something to entice people into using your resource. So make sure it's the most fun looking activity that you've got loaded. So we're going to click update. The other thing you can do is you can tag. So maybe you want to tag your school in particular. We add tags such as Key Stage 2. That makes it a little easier to search for. So this is anything that you think another teacher might search for in relation to looking for this particular resource. So we're going to have word search. We might have festival, because it is a festival, or a religious festival. And there we go. And when you've added all your tags and all of your information, have another quick double check. Yep, all good. And we're going to save that activity. So that activity is saved within my resource area. You can submit that for moderation. All you have to do is open up your particular resource and you will have the option to publish. You are giving permission for us to use the content that you have created. And when you are happy for that, you just press OK. Now that will be submitted to us for moderation. So don't worry, any of the resources that you find in the community resource library will pass through a moderation process. We check them all here at Just2easy, so you don't need to worry about any nasty surprises. Now finally, the last thing we can do is we can set these resources as homework. So this links in really nicely to J2 homework. So it might be that you find a particular resource that you want to use with your students. So for example, I might use this lovely Inspirational People David Attenborough resource. I've had a quick look at it and I think that's really appropriate for my students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the button that says homework. Now what's nice about that is it will link in, so it will share this resource with seamlessly with the library and the J2 homework. All you have to do is add in which class you wish to share it with within J2 homework. It adds all the rest of the details. So it gives information to the students about what you want them to do, and it will also add a link to that particular library resource. Now, as well as that, you can add in some more information if you wish to. So if you want to bulk out these instructions for your students, if you think that they might find those a bit difficult, you can add your audio instructions there. You can add in additional files if you wanted to. You could add in additional links. So there's lots and lots of things that you can do there. Then you're just going to click create homework as you would do normally with a homework. The other options you've got are you can have this to start at a future date, so you can set it to happen in the future. So maybe, next Monday you want to set it, and you can change the due date as well to suit whatever. And we're going to click create homework. Now that has added that there as a homework ready for my students to complete. All they would do is to click on this link here and then they click mark as complete. So that is our 15-minute quick bites webinar all about the J2E library. We are running these consistently every first Tuesday of the month. It will be from 3:45 to 4 o'clock. We have lots of different ones coming up. I think our next one is J2 homework off the top of my head. You can find the recordings as well here at the Quick Bites recordings page, which is www.just2easy.com/news. We are posting all of these online, so you can find those there. So please have a look. If you would like to book on any of our future webinars, they can be found on Eventbrite. Just search for Quick Bites Just Too Easy. Now, I would like to know, has anybody got any questions? No, it's sounding very quiet. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me, and join us next time.